Fox 45 tracking our next weather maker as heavy rain moves through our area. Some lawmakers are pushing to decriminalize bad behavior in schools, while critics say students should be held accountable. Another debate in Annapolis today, juvenile crime, why some say new reforms could water down the spirit of the bills.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
We are tracking our next weather maker as heavy rain and wind throughout our area is moving through. You are taking a live look at conditions at the Inner Harbor, Towson, and out on our roads where the weather could impact your evening commute home. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala. Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali joins us now with what we can expect and how long this rain and wind will last. Gerard?
Yeah, it's going to be an overnight event for us, Mary. So good evening, everyone. Seeing the rainfall, you've been noticing it around almost all day, and more of that to come. We're not done with it yet. Some stronger thunderstorms starting to set up back to our west with some heavier rain, some rumbles of thunder, maybe not too unlike what we saw from earlier today, minus the fact that they could bring some pretty gusty winds. We do have a wind advisory in effect for almost everyone here in our area, and that goes in effect through tonight into the early morning hours. So 4 a.m. is when it's set to expire. Between then, we are likely going to see gusts upwards of 50 miles per hour. So it is going to be very gusty. Some limbs and things may be brushing around. Make sure you have everything tacked down really tightly over the next few hours or so. The next 12, we'll start to see the rain ending pretty early. We're talking around 9, 10 o'clock tonight. Most of the rain will come to an end, but the winds will remain, and we are going to get very chilly tonight. This is going to be a pretty strong blast of colder air moving through the area. So be prepared to have a lot more of that. We're going to talk about the threats for not just the wind, even a small threat for some damaging winds from these thunderstorms, is that we do have a small risk for severe thunderstorms, as well as this cold blast coming. We're going to talk more about your Thursday coming up in just a bit. Mary?
Thank you. We'll debate in Annapolis today over how kids should be punished for causing issues in school. Maryland lawmakers are pushing to decriminalize disruptive behavior, but those against the bill are worried there will be no accountability for bad behavior. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker explains.
Addressing juvenile crime is at the forefront of this session in Annapolis as lawmakers look to hold young people accountable. But some say one bill could erode accountability.
This is one of those bills that absolutely sends the wrong message.
House Bill 615 and Senate Bill 512, debated Wednesday, would prohibit students from being criminally charged for some forms of disruptive behavior in the classroom, like not sitting in their seat in class or talking back. The bill would also exempt students from penalties for threatening school employees with bodily harm if the threat is made while on school grounds. However, it doesn't prevent a child from being charged with breaking the law on school grounds.
I think it's a horrible bill. I think we continue to not hold anyone accountable for anything. And we have to set a standard. Standards here in the state, we have to set expectations and set the bar high and hold everyone accountable.
Opponents of the bill worry it could make teachers' jobs harder and make them feel less safe.
Like, it's okay to have rules. It's okay to enforce those rules. Consequences are good. That's how kids learn. And if we're taking all that away and now putting all the onus on the teachers to be, you know, now referees and boxing officials and all kinds of other things, it's completely unfair.
Senate Bill 512.
Senator Alonzo Washington introduced the bill to address the school-to-prison pipeline.
They don't need to be sentenced. They need help.
He says the goal is to combat racial and disability disparities by addressing the poor behavior of students without criminalizing them under Maryland's education code.
A student should not be treated like a criminal for simply acting out if they have not committed any other crimes. Students act out for many reasons. Sometimes they are not malicious and are simply misunderstood.
Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Well, another debate front and center in Annapolis today, the battle over juvenile crime legislation. The State House debating new changes on the floor today, including how to charge young offenders. Kids ages 10 through 12 who steal a car for the first time will not face charges. Instead, they will be referred to a mandatory diversion program. Concerns are growing about lawmakers watering down the bill's intent. Fox 45 questioned some lawmakers today about why they're making these changes.
So what we're envisioning is that a police officer takes them directly into a diversion program. It's certainly a lot more than we're doing right now.
The diversionary programs might not be enough. Why not automatically give DJS the supervision or the jurisdiction to handle this, especially when we're seeing car thefts continue to rise?
I think that by providing that first step, and by saying, if this doesn't work, okay, well, here's the juvenile jurisdiction that's there.
As we've seen, Schiraldi and the Department of Juvenile Services has been completely disconnected about the levels of juvenile crime. What you're seeing over and over as the bill gets watered down more and more is that there are no real tangible boundaries around the system.
Well, the House moved forward with the current changes today, setting up a potential final vote later this week. Meanwhile, the Senate is also moving forward with its own version of the bill that includes similar changes. New information about the takedown of 6 suspects, including 2 juveniles accused of committing at least 80 violent crimes across Baltimore City and Baltimore County. According to Attorney General Anthony Brown's indictment, all but one of the suspects was under 18 when they began committing crimes. They're accused of 103 violent attacks affecting 83 victims. Those crimes include armed robberies, carjackings, and thefts. One activist saying cases like these are spurring calls for change in Annapolis.
I wish I could say that it was an isolated incident, but I have a feeling that we're probably going to see more of this. And the reason is because, again, we have these policies that refuse to stop this behavior before it gets out of hand. All that these poor laws have done is given these kids the opportunity to rack up these charges.
Well, also today, day 2 of the trial for the murders of Baltimore police officer Keona Holley and civilian Justin Johnson. Officer Holley and Johnson were killed in separate shootings back on December 16, 2021. One of 2 suspects, Elliot Knox, is currently standing trial. Alexa Ashwell has more on today's testimony.
In day 2 of the trial for the murders of BPD officer Keona Holley and Justin Johnson, the state played a recording of defendant Elliot Knox's interview with police after he was taken into custody back in December 2021. It was in this video that one of the homicide detectives who conducted the interview testified that Knox admitted to being there, described the guns they had, and gave investigators his co-defendant's name, Trayvon Shaw. Knox's admissions, not immediate and literally at a whisper. In the video, Knox first telling investigators, "I was not involved in that," then expressing concern about his safety if he cooperates. On a detective's body-worn camera, Knox is captured whispering to the investigator in the hallway, "I just don't want to say it on camera." Knox then asking to speak with the city state's attorney. The detective declines the request. As the interview continues, detectives question the motive in Officer Holley's murder, asking, "Why? Why her?" Knox, "He never told me." BPD, "Did he deal with her?" Knox, "I don't know. I didn't even know it was a lady until today." During the interview, Knox later telling investigators Shaw laughed after shooting Officer Holley, specifically at how she crashed and the look on her face as she tried to drive off. One family member walking out of the courtroom as that portion of the interview played. Knox becoming emotional twice in court. In the interview video saying if he could say something to Holley, it would be, "Forgive me for not helping you." Knox then calling himself a coward for not stepping up earlier. Other witnesses called by the state included 2 crime scene techs and a deputy medical examiner. One crime scene tech testified to processing the scene of Justin Johnson's homicide and verified evidence collected, including shell casings. The other crime scene tech testified to processing a vehicle and seizing 2 sets of earplugs and 2 cell phones. Testimony from the deputy medical examiner who supervised the autopsies for both Officer Holley and Johnson, another very emotional moment for the family. Officer Holley's sister having to briefly excuse herself from the courtroom as the jury was shown images from the examinations. Holley was shot 4 times, including twice in the head. The officer's sister describing the moment as very heavy.
Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Breaking news out of Capitol Hill tonight. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell has announced he will be stepping down at the end of his term after nearly 20 years as party leader and 4 decades in the Senate. McConnell is the longest-serving Senate leader in history and the longest-serving senator from his home state of Kentucky. McConnell's team says the announcement is unrelated to his health. He appeared to freeze up at 2 press conferences in recent months McConnell is 82 years old.
The main character in the story of the Biden impeachment inquiry on Capitol Hill. I'm Christine Frizzau with what Hunter Biden told lawmakers and how they're responding.
And now you can watch Fox 45 News for free anytime on Amazon Fire TV or Samsung TV Plus. Tonight, the star witness in the impeachment inquiry into President Biden was on Capitol Hill. Hunter Biden, whose business deals have been the focal point of the investigation led by House Republicans, met with lawmakers behind closed doors. Sinclair national correspondent Christine Frizzau joins us live from Capitol Hill. Christine, what did we learn today?
Well, since the deposition began this morning, Mary, we've heard very little from Republicans, though they are supposed to be releasing a full transcript as soon as tomorrow. Democrats on the committee came out multiple times to say they think today's testimony solidifies their argument that this impeachment inquiry should be over.
He's been the centerpiece of the investigation into the Biden family, both from House Republicans and former President Donald Trump.
Where's Hunter?
Hunter Biden, the president's son, spent the day on Capitol Hill, speaking to lawmakers who have for months been working to impeach his father in what he calls a partisan political pursuit, saying, quote, "You have trafficked in innuendo, distortion, and sensationalism, all the while ignoring the clear and convincing evidence, staring you in the face. You do not have evidence to support the baseless and MAGA-motivated conspiracies about my father, because there isn't any." It's a sentiment echoed by his uncle James Biden, who testified last week, but one that stands in sharp contrast to claims Republicans have made for years that the reason Hunter Biden was able to seal so many business deals with wealthy companies in China, Russia, and elsewhere was because of Joe Biden's powerful positions in government, particularly while he was vice president. They've also insisted Joe Biden financially benefited from the deals, citing these two loan repayment checks Joe Biden received from his brother. They say immediately followed payments from business deals.
The basis of what we've learned is that the Bidens didn't have a legitimate business. Their business was selling access to Joe Biden, the brand.
Democrats say the evidence just isn't there, especially after a key GOP witness, Alexander Smirnov, was just charged with lying to the FBI about the matter, with evidence he was being fed information from Russian intelligence sources.
They've got nothing.
I think it is extremely disturbing to see the lack of professionalism, the lack of grounding, and the abuse of public resources and abuse of public power.
And just to be clear, this is, of course, separate from the Justice Department investigation into Hunter Biden. Special counsel David Weiss looking into tax crimes and a gun charge against him. Mary?
And Christine, as far as this investigation by the House Oversight Committee, what is next?
Well, Chairman Comer said today the next step will likely be a public hearing with Hunter Biden. Today's was not only behind closed doors, it was not videotaped. As he left the hearing today, Hunter Biden told reporters he thought it went great.
All right, Christine Frizzell, live for us in D.C. tonight. Thank you. President Biden hosted law enforcement officials from across the nation at the White House today to talk about crime across the country. He emphasized the national decline in most violent crimes since he took office in 2021, but says more needs to be done. Biden is calling on Congress to approve $37 billion for crime prevention and to hire 100,000 police officers. He's also promising to ban assault rifles if he gets another 4 years in office, which could prove an uphill battle with strong Republican opposition.
I've taken more executive actions to stop the flow of illegal guns than any other administration in history. And we beat the NRA when I signed the most significant gun safety law in nearly 30 years.
Gallup polls show personal safety fears are at a nearly 30-year high, but only 3% of Americans say crime and violence is the most important problem facing the country, far behind economic issues and immigration. Of course, we're tracking our next weather maker with heavy rain and wind gusts throughout our area. Here's Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali with what we need to know to get through tonight. Gerard.
Hey, Mary. I mean, the most part, we're just seeing the rainfall, but it's about to get much windier as we are still tracking the rainfall that will eventually come to an end in a couple of hours. Oh, the wind is going to be up tonight, and this blast of cold air is really going to come in rather rudely, I think. Let's take a look outside. Of course, it is wet. We've got a lot of problems on the roads with people just trying to get home, and it's a little slow going because of the wet roadways. Still around 60 degrees for the time being. The wind's starting to come up a little bit, and we're continuing to track this storm system coming by. This strong cold front associated with it is bringing all of this moisture as well as some much colder air, and we have just seen it absolutely invade much of the eastern United States. We're getting our helping of colder air to come in as we move just to around midnight or so, but first we got to get rid of the rainfall. And on the radar, we're still looking at scattered showers across the area, some heavier pockets of rainfall just back to the west, so between Gaithersburg, Damascus, and just outside of Cockeysville, just to the north. We're going to watch as those thunderstorms start to track across the area here in the next 30 to 45 minutes. Some pockets of heavy rainfalls we talked about, so downpours but rather brief, and maybe some flashes of lightning. Could see some gusty winds upwards of around 50 miles per hour as they go by. But overall, it looks like the threat for anything becoming severe is still very, very low. It's only a level 1 out of 5 threat, so a marginal risk for anything severe. And we're only talking about the potential for some of these to produce some very brief damaging winds in excess of around 58 miles per hour. All right, so again, tracking the storm system as the front goes by. We're going to be talking about the rain coming to an end around 8, 9 o'clock. And then overnight, while we're drying out, it's still very windy as a cold blast comes in and takes away all this warmer air that we've been dealing with, or I should say enjoying with the past several days. And now we are going to be dealing with the colder air. So upper 20s for lows, mid 40s for highs tomorrow. That's it. But we will have some sunshine. However, it will be blustery. So those winds will be gusting again, 45 to nearly 50 miles per hour through the overnight hours. Coming down, I'd say tapering downward into around morning hours, around 5, 6 in the morning. We're dropping them down to around 25 mile per hour gusts. So it'll be a wind chill factor day tomorrow for sure. We're going to talk about your 10-day forecast here. Oh, even a preview coming up in just a bit.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
After record highs in the 70s in Michigan on Tuesday, a powerful cold front caused severe thunderstorms that dropped lots of large hail, as seen in these photos from viewers, including this photo taken during a lightning flash. Behind that front today, Michigan was getting accumulating lake effect snow and bitterly cold wind chills. This is the same cold front that spawned the tornadoes in Ohio.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
A fifth person arrested after a 2-year-old boy is murdered in Prince George's County. Why this latest suspect is raising concerns about illegal immigration. A fifth person has been arrested in connection to a shooting in Prince George's County that killed a 2-year-old boy earlier this month. And we are learning that suspect was in the country illegally and had been ordered to leave the U.S. years ago. Brad Bell with our Sinclair sister station in D.C. has the story.
Last Friday, we were with ICE agents as they prepped for an early morning raid aiming to catch a non-citizen in the country illegally who'd been convicted of multiple crimes of violence, but who had been released by a local county despite an ICE detainer.
So what's happening right now is they've gotten to a point in time where they feel like they'll be able to get the guy that they are after. So we're walking down this residential street, approaching the house.
After some nervous moments and a search of the home, the immigration agents leave empty-handed and frustrated with the lack of cooperation from local county leaders.
This is a very dangerous person that is now running the streets.
Now, ICE is pointing to the case of this man, 25-year-old Nilson Granados Trejo, street name Gucci. They say he was ordered deported 2 years ago, that he has been arrested twice since in Montgomery County, but released from the county detention center each time despite ICE detainers. Now, he's charged with murder for his alleged role in the February 8th Langley Park street gang shootout, which led to the death of 2-year-old Jeremy Poo Caceres, the head of the local ICE field office last week, blasting the county policy of non-cooperation and warning of such possible consequences.
One of the major frustrations for me is when these executives are releasing egregious offenders back into the communities. How are they protecting the communities
Today, Montgomery County Executive Mark Elrich addressing the issue after meeting with ICE officials, promising better cooperation, including 48 hours notice when someone with a detainer is to be released. But he's sticking to his policy of cooperation only when the subjects of detainers do serious crimes.
And it's anything violent, anything related to sex offenses, child abuse, use of a gun or any other weapon. It's a pretty good list of things that we will deport for, and we will cooperate.
As for Gucci, the man now charged with murder in Prince George's County, Elrich explains his prior releases this way.
His arrests were for theft, and they were not on the list of serious crimes or violent crimes.
Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
All right, we're going to take another quick look at what's going on the radar first. We still have those thunderstorms back to the west. Some heavier pockets of rainfall about to move across the area here in just the next half hour. And with that, we'll also see some gusty winds tonight, gusting to 50 miles per hour as wind advisories are in effect until around 4 a.m. You'll see a massive drop in temperatures tonight, only around 30 degrees by daybreak tomorrow. And we're only going to hit the high of around 44 for your afternoon. Here's again your quick look at your 10-day forecast. Showers likely as we move into Saturday morning. 55, though. We'll start to recover back into the 60s late next week.
Well, finally tonight, Ken's being promoted from beach to the stage. Several media outlets report Ryan Gosling will perform I'm Just Ken from Barbie live at this year's Oscars. The Academy has not officially confirmed that this is happening, but that song and What Was I Made For were both nominated for Oscars. The Academy Awards air Sunday, March 10th. We shall see. Well, that's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feud's up next. We'll see you back here for the news.